The government has confirmed that thousands of victims of the infected blood scandal will be given £100,000 in compensation. It follows recommendations from a public inquiry and decades of campaigning. More than 2,000 people died after being infected with HIV and hepatitis C through contaminated blood products in the 1970s and 80s. Families have welcomed the news, but say there are many people, such as bereaved parents, siblings and children, who will miss out. One of them is Justine Gordon-Smith, whose father was one of the victims.
I'm really pleased for the beneficiaries, the survivors and the widows, but it seems to me that the government intentionally perhaps are pitting the survivors and the widows against the other half of the community. And I think that's really unfair because those survivors deserve every penny. The issue that is not being addressed by the government. They've never paid a single penny to all the family carers. We cared for our father for a long time. We went through harrowing ordeal, and when we wrote to the government and asked them what they could do to help us, they basically told us to get lost.
The time is at 26 minutes past 7. Prime Minister Boris Johnson is set to award payments of £100,000 to victims impacted by the infected blood scandal between the late 1970s and early 1990s. Thousands of haemophiliacs and those in need of blood transfusions were treated with blood plasma donated from high-risk sources, including from the prison population in the United States. Many of the blood products were infected and led to over 1,000 haemophiliacs being infected with HIV. Des Collins is a senior partner at Collins Solicitors, the company advising over 1,500 victims of the scandal. Good morning to you, Des.
Good morning.
This is an interim payment then for around 3,000 victims in all. What does that mean?
It means that at long last these particular victims, or this section of victims, can begin to move forward, that they have achieved some sort of recognition and that the end is in sight. What it doesn't mean is that all the victims will get a compensation or that all the victims will get interim payments. And we had pushed for that at the public inquiry, and we'll continue to push it at the public inquiry, and had pushed the government for it. But at the moment, it's a very limited class of victims who will receive interim payments. It's the living infected and the widows of those who have died. What we don't see covered in this in today's announcement is any compensation whatsoever, or any real indication that there will be compensation, which of course is more important, for mothers or parents who have lost children and children who have lost parents. Now, these people have been campaigning for 40 years, but what is startling is that they're just not mentioned in the government announcement today. It's as if they don't exist. They've been out. What
reason has been given for that omission?
No reason has been given for the omission whatsoever. It's as I say, it's as if the government has airbrushed them out of existence. Reading between the lines and having been working at the inquiry now for 4 or 5 years, it's reasonably clear that at some point other victims will be given compensation. This process arose as a result of a report commissioned by the Cabinet Office last year sometime from Sir Brian Francis. Now, he reported to the Cabinet Office in March, and he recommended that compensation be provided to a wide range of victims, but only a certain narrow range be provided with interim payments. So there is hope out there, but what my clients find very concerning this morning is that the government just don't mention them. It's as if, well, we've done some good, so let's go for the good news and pretend that.
And this is, again, a boosterish announcement of sorts from Boris Johnson. He's delivering good news before he departs. Earlier this month, the inquiry did write to families. So they had said that some would miss out for now because they need to find a practical way to make payments swiftly outside the current support scheme. So it may be connected to what support schemes people are involved in. And the focus today has been on, people who are getting ready ready to die, effectively, aren't they? Who are basically settling their affairs before they die, with the rate of people dying still 1 in every 4 days. I read earlier, which was still very, very stark. So what happens now for mums, parents, children affected by this? Do they just have to sit and wait? How are you advising people?
The advice we're giving to people is that they shouldn't simply sit and wait, and that they should continue to press the inquiry, which is being chaired by Sir Brian Langstaff, to make a recommendation that they receive interim payments as soon as reasonably possible. It's slightly circuitous, this, in terms of the report was commissioned by the Cabinet Office. It's prepared by Brian Langstaff, by Sir Robert Francis. It then goes to the Cabinet Office. The Cabinet Office then supply it to the inquiry. The inquiry look at it and then make recommendations back to the Cabinet Office.
So it's a long paper chain, effectively.
It's a long paper chain, and what we're finding is that in this long paper chain, people are being left out. Now, whether that's deliberate or accidental, it's certainly infuriating and very upsetting for those who have been left in that position.
Well, look, thank you for giving us the picture so far. Des Collins, senior partner at Collins Solicitors, who are advising over 1,500 victims of the infected blood scandal.